From the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains, where there's no such thing as springtime and summer is but a myth told to children, I'm Michael Bain for OutdoorChannel.com and Downrange TV. The big question this week is, what is driving our industry? And we may be a lot closer to having an answer to that question. Last week, the results of a National Shooting Sports Foundation Harris poll was released, and it showed what a lot of us have suspected for a long time. The overwhelming drivers for the firearms industry are home protection and personal protection. In fact, 70% of the respondents, who represented as many as 98 million people, said that that was the primary reason they were purchasing firearms. Number 3 on that list was competition shooting, target shooting, both formal and informal, and a distant fourth was hunting. Almost 18.5 million people say they are currently active target shooters with handguns, 14.5 million with rifles, and roughly 4 to 5 million each for the various shotgun sports, trap, skeet, sporting clays. This represents substantial increases over previous years and highlights what amounts to a seismic shift in the gun culture. In fact, if we think of the gun culture in its original terms, it was almost a hobbyist culture. Now, this is going back to the 1950s and 1960s, focused around hunting and competitions like Camp Perry. But that has changed drastically in recent years, especially with the growth of 2 items, practical shooting and the concealed carry movement. The spectacular growth of practical shooting starting in the mid-70s suddenly gave people something to do with handguns, and that something to do was deeply focused on home defense and self-defense. The rise of the concealed carry movement beginning in the mid-1980s in Florida has totally changed the basis of who is the gun culture. The new gun culture are people focused on home defense, on personal defense, on concealed carry, on training, on competition, both formal and informal. At this point, you're probably asking, Michael, why is that important? Let me answer your question with 2 words. Pittman-Robertson. The excise tax that we all pay whenever we purchase firearms, ammunition, accessories, even bow and arrows. Now, traditionally, that money has gone almost exclusively to wildlife management, to various state fish and game departments, for hunter recruitment and retention programs, for hunter education. But Pittman-Robertson also included a clause that the money should be used to develop shooting areas, to build ranges, and only a microscopic amount of that money, which is big money, has ever been used for that purpose. 2007 Pittman-Robertson collections were $303 million. They went up 20% in 2008. They may go up as much as 29 and 30% in 2009. In fact, some of the 2009 numbers are already in, and almost $50 million of the excise tax was from ammunition. One of the biggest crises facing shooting in America is no place to shoot. We've been suffering from the mega trends. That's urbanization, suburbanization, that's putting pressure on ranges. Also, competition for leisure time, increased liability. Land that you might have been able to shoot and hunt on in 1960 is now posted, and it's posted because the landowner doesn't want to risk the liability. If there's no place to shoot, the Second Amendment doesn't matter all that much. A portion of those Pittman-Robertson funds should be diverted to range development, building new ranges, developing new ranges. Why? Because just like 1775, taxation without representation is tyranny. The shooters, the people concerned with personal protection, the concealed carry holders, the formal and informal target shooters are not only driving the industry, but they're purchasing the ammunition, they're purchasing the guns, and they should have a say in where their taxes are spent. This is going to be one of the major issues facing the firearms industry over the next couple of years. You can bet on that. And speaking of the American Revolution, I think most of you know by now that I will be in Washington, D.C. April 19th at the Second Amendment March, one of the speakers, an all-day celebration of the Second Amendment. But you know, that's not the only thing going on April 19th in the United States. And you're thinking, April 19th, April 19th? I don't know, does this ring any bells? One if by land, two if by sea. April 19th, 1775, Lexington and Concord, where the embattled farmers stood and fired the shot heard round the world. Of course, they had been warned by Paul Revere's ride the night before. And that's going to be celebrated nationwide by the Appleseed Project. Appleseed is a project formed several years ago to once again create a nation of riflemen. Of course, America was founded as a nation of riflemen. That's what those embattled farmers were. So the Appleseed Project plan was to teach people how to shoot a rifle, and it has gone spectacularly well. So well that on this April 19th, there will be 100 Appleseed events nationwide, completely stretching across the country. That's with over 5,000 new shooters learning to shoot rifles. According to the Appleseed executives, that means a firing line, when it's all totaled up, 3.5 miles wide. So if you can't get to Washington, D.C. to hear me talk, check out Appleseed in your area. And of course, anything we talk about here on the video podcast, you can find out at downrange.tv. We'll have all the links for you there. There's starting to be some pretty interesting rumors about new products at the NRA show, which will happen roughly the middle of May in Charlotte, North Carolina. Think new revolvers. The only thing announced right now, though, is from Blade Tech, the holster company. We've mentioned them before. They have a new modular holster system that allows you to take the holster, click it in and lock it, and then click it out. Originally designed for the military, it's going to be available to civilians very soon. You'll be able to see it at the NRA show. Finally, if you're having trouble thinking of that perfect springtime gift for your significant other, or hey, maybe your fiancé, consider rings made from fired bullets. Israeli designer Adi Weissler has been collecting bullets from ranges around Israel and turning them into works of art, into jewelry. Now, he says when you separate those bullets from their contacts, they look spectacular. They become bejeweled. So, if you can't find that perfect gift, and if chocolate isn't going to do the job, rings made from spent bullets, I'm 100% there. I'm Michael Bain for OutdoorChannel.com and Downrange Television. Once again, anything we've talked about here on the video podcast, you can find on Downrange TV. And definitely meet me in Washington, D.C., April 19th. We'll hang a couple of lanterns in the window of the Old North Church. Okay?